Kevin McCullough.
And welcome back, Times Square. It's That Kevin Show. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. And if you have been paying attention over the last number of days, you have really seen the mainstream press exploit this little argument that's going on within the kind of pro-Trump arenas, and that is the debate over H-1 visas and what they mean and how it impacts the larger immigration question overall. And I think there's a lot to be unpacked here because I'm not even sure I fully understand the rationale as to why people are so upset. But let's turn to America First Policy Institute's Rob Law, who covers immigration and various other things for AFPI and does a great job. Rob, welcome back and Happy New Year. It's always fun to have people joining us. And you know how much I've appreciated AFPI in these last 4 years of wandering in the wilderness and needing somebody to be America First and give us the insights on that. So I've been really grateful for your entire organization. It seems as though Vivek and Elon set off a little bit of a tinderbox within the MAGA camp recently. And I'm curious why. Why is it that the H-1 visa discussion is so reactionary within the MAGA circles?
Well, thanks for having me on again, and Happy New Year as well. I think what you've seen with this debate over the H-1B visas really is it shows a healthy dialogue between, sort of the MAGA camp, the supporters of President Trump, that you actually have sort of competing views and they're kind of hashing it out, maybe in a public setting. And you contrast that with the left, where there's just unanimous thinking across the board, and it has really led to sort of a corrosion of policy thought. So that being said, why do people care so much about the H-1B visa? Well, first off, what is the H-1B? This is supposed to be for high-skilled legal immigrants. But as I know from my time in the first term of President Trump, this visa category is very often used to replace white-collar American workers, particularly those in the tech sector. And so there's really a disconnect between some of the rhetoric where they talk about the best and the brightest and the highest skilled and highest paid and the reality of the program. And so I think when you see on a platform like Twitter, you have an engaged community of professionals, American professionals, who see that this is a visa program that has been used to displace them or to suppress their wages over the years. And so, of course, that is going to generate a lot of enthusiastic, viewpoints. And then, of course, on the other side of that, you have businessmen like Elon Musk and Vivek, who, they frankly do benefit on a bottom line by having a workforce that they can pay less than a qualified American. And so that's sort of where you see the two sides are really coming at it from a position of what's to their particular, advantageous benefit on the issue.
Was the H-1B created expressly to give corporations a pay scale leverage against American labor? I mean, it seems to me that if it's as simple as it's a tool that they're using to make Americans earn less, that President Trump would be naturally against it, at least from his America First kind of viewpoint. He's kind of the author of America First in some ways. So people would think that he would be naturally opposed to it, but he's said that he's not necessarily opposed to it. So is it being used improperly, or was it designed improperly?
Well, it's a great question. It was designed improperly, but that doesn't mean you cannot solve the problem. So right now, the biggest shortcoming of the H-1B visa is there's 4 different tiers of skills, which then have an associated wage level. And right now, that means that because of where those wage levels are set, you can legally underpay a foreign worker to do the same job that an American could do. And to your point, President Trump cares very much, if you remember, the Buy American and Hire American executive order. During his first term, we actually implemented a number of H-1B specific policies in 2020 to really upskill the program, ensure that it was going to the highest paid and the most qualified. So it's a better use of these visas instead of the lowest skilled ones. And we also try to increase that prevailing wage. That's what it's called, is the amount of that you can pay them. And the Biden administration tossed all of those rules and policies out the door.
Oh, and see, now this has not been something that's been widely discussed in the media, and I think you're making news here by saying it. 2 things that I want my listeners to be aware of. One, that Trump saw some of the weaknesses of the H-1 program and used executive action to kind of beef it up as what you just described, Rob, and that in the aftermath of the Trump administration, the Biden people threw all of those things out. So Trump could do the same thing again. He could make the H-1 more truly competitive and not as harmful to the American worker, and still maintain the ability to draw on a talent pool that might be better and brighter than what we have to pick from.
Well, that's absolutely right. And by doing so and actually imposing a merit-based, H-1B program, you're really, not only are you upskilling it, but it's a far more efficient use of these 85,000 work visas on an annualized basis. But right now, over 90% of them are going to level 1 workers. That's basically like a data entry job.
That's not what they were designed for.
That's not what they were designed for. And so again, if you are actually maximizing it to, every time you hear this debate, you talk about, oh, well, this Einstein or this brilliant PhD. Well, those are just not the people that are winning them, because right now they're being distributed through a random lottery, which is a terrible decision to do so. It's bureaucratically easy.
That's not in the intent of how they were created.
Exactly. And that's why during President Trump's first term, we got rid of the lottery and we imposed a top to bottom selection process. So if you're that highest skilled, highest paid foreign worker and you're a business that's identified that worker, you're going to get one of those valuable H-1Bs for that. And that is exactly how it is. It's supposed to be something that supplements the American workforce, not supplants them as a cheaper alternative, usually at the lower end of the white collar, industry.
Well, this is really important that we had this conversation, because what I'm hearing through most of the rest of the media is a configuration of the facts, and they're just kind of lumping them all together, and they're not really making much clarity out of any of it. And I don't think Vivek and Elon are making the case as easily as you just did that Trump will use it with executive actions attached to it, can use it to actually strengthen the American workforce and create incentive, which when you think about him bringing foreign companies and companies that were operating in foreign countries back home to the U.S. and even incentivizing foreign companies to come and build here, that's exactly how he did it. He made it more incentivized to make the American workforce more advantaged, and those companies that did that benefited the most. And that's what we have to do on this issue as well. But no one's telling us that part, Rob.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.